So I think you guys are already aware that we are going to, this is a 4 or 5 days boot camp or a small uh, uh, like intro to Python kind of thing. We are going to touch upon a couple of topics in Python, from the very basics to not advanced topics, like somewhat to the intermediate level or just scratch the intermediate level. All right, that's what we are going to do. And for that we are going to need to do some setup on our systems. All right, so since that takes a bit of time, so first we'll do that and then we'll talk more about Python and the entire stuff. So just let me know, guys, is anyone not joining or not joining from a computer or a laptop or any kind of desktop or something? Is anyone joining from phone? Because these sessions are going to be hands-on, so you'll need to install the software, and as I type code, I'll be typing code right in front of your eyes. It's not like something is already there and I'm just showing you that thing. So it would be good if you guys just install. You guys let me know if you are not joining from a desktop or a laptop. Anyone, guys, you can ping on the chat. Feel free to do that.
Hey Gaurav, Prashant here.
Hey Prashant.
Before jumping into this, can I one of my colleagues is unable to, he did not
Mm-hmm.
get the invite link. So,
Uh-huh.
is there any way he can join to this meeting? Is there any meeting link which you could
Yeah,
provide?
there is
Or
something for registering this thing. I'll just send it to you on chat. Cool.
okay,
So probably once they register from here, they'll be able to join this thing.
Gaurav, I will post you. Gaurav, I will post in group. There's like that things is also their security passcode.
All right, cool.
Okay.
That's fine. Cool. Thank you.
thank you.
All right. So guys, I'll do one thing. So now look at my screen. All right. Forget about everything. So I don't know what kind of systems you're joining from. I'll just start talking. And as you guys have any kind of doubts or questions, let me know. So first I'll just set up some boundaries so that things are clear for everyone. So this section is my section. All right. And my name is Gaurav. So I think I don't know if I told you about this thing or not, or you already know probably. And this is something I'll paste some code over here. I'll paste the code, and this is your section. When I say your section means everyone's section apart from me. All right. So if I ask you guys to paste anything, you can paste it over here. Like just type your name and put the code that you are pasting or anything you want to share over here. All right. And what I want to share, I'll just keep it to these two things: the top, the middle, and like that. Cool. And it would be good if you guys just start typing your names over here in this part and the last part. All right. So that I can know, like I can get a rough idea like who all is able to access or who all has opened this thing. You can just start typing your names, and you can hit enter so that you don't type into someone else's name. Cool. All right. So Google gives some funny names. Anonymous support. Nice. Cool. So I'll give you 10 seconds to do that. After that, we'll start with some software setup, and then we'll see. Cool. All right. So whoever wants to type their names, just keep typing, and you don't need to put these separators for yourself. All right. You're not getting a dedicated section, so there's a common area. Cool. Now let's come to this thing. Look at my screen. So we are going to work with Python. All right. So I don't know who all is from a programming background and who all is not. So we'll talk about it after this thing. All right. But before that, I want everyone who probably hasn't already, to install this software called as Anaconda. Right, so the name of thing is Anaconda. I don't know why they called it Anaconda. I'm not sure. But if you just Google Anaconda, the first thing you're going to get is this anaconda.com, which is where we want to go. And from there, we want to go to this individual edition. All right. But if you don't get this option, you just get anaconda.com. You can just go over here, see carefully. You go to products and there you click on this individual edition. Cool. Once you are on this page, which says /individual, cool, you scroll down a bit and then roughly very close to the bottom, you'll get this option to download for Windows, Mac, and Linux and all that. Cool. So my system is Windows. I already have Anaconda installed, but still I'll download a copy of this thing. And so if you're not sure what thing to download or you are getting confused, let me know. I'll help you out. But mostly, I think most of the folks would be on Windows or Mac, most likely. All right. So you can just download the 64-bit for Windows. If you are very sure that your system is 32 bits only, then go for this one. Otherwise, just download blindly the 64-bit graphical installer. All right. For Mac also, just use the 64-bit graphical installer. If you're good with command line, you can try this also. I have no issues. And if someone is using Linux, please let me know. If that's the case, maybe Ubuntu or something else or some other distro of Linux, just feel free to let me know. If you need any help installing or downloading, let me know. Once this downloads, I'll show you how to install the software. This is somewhat big. It's around half a gig. All right, so it may take some time depending on your internet speed. So for me, it will take around 30 more seconds to download. Typically, it is faster, slow right now. So let me know if you need any help right now. I'll put this link onto this Google Sheet, which I had opened over to my section. All right. And I'll post this link again on chat so that if anyone joined later, they can also access it. So this is to everyone in the meeting. Trying to put it here. Yeah. All right. So just download the software. All right. And is it downloaded for anyone or?
Yeah, it's done. It's done.
It's downloaded.
It's downloaded. Yeah.
All right, others guys, is it still downloading? Because then I'm going to show you the steps to install. Otherwise, I'll wait for, let's say, a minute or something. So Dhruv, you were saying like it's downloaded for you?
Yeah, it's downloaded for me.
Okay. Okay, great. So let's wait for a minute for everyone probably to install this thing. Sorry, to download this thing. Then we'll talk about installation. All right. And what happens is, okay, got them. Cool. 10 seconds. We can wait. Cool. No issues. So what happens is, guys, whenever you're learning, Python is just a programming language. All right. I'm not sure who all is from a programming background, who all is not. All right. So by the time you guys are downloading this thing, can you guys also type after your name, what's your background? Like, are you from a program? Like, I'll tell you what to write. All right. Otherwise, it will become very confusing. I want to know exactly what do you do right now. Probably who are already a professional. All right. If you are a professional, just in the brackets put the domain or the field that you're working in, IT or any other domain, maybe some other industry. If you're a student, then type in the branch that you are studying in. All right. And if there's anything else, you can also type that. And if you are typing about your work, if you just put after this thing, whether you know any programming language, you can put a yes or no for that. Like, you know, programming language, yes or no. That's it. Whether you studied in college or anything, if you have any kind of exposure, that's fine for me. If you want to put more elaborate answer, like after Y or N, you can put some details. If you want to put down the programming languages, you know, like that. For example, I'll say Cora, and so I'm into IT industry. All right, and I'm a backend developer. All right, and I know a couple of languages. We'll start with Python and C++, Go, Java, JavaScript, etc., etc. Cool. Like that, you can type it. And yes, for I know programming, like that. Okay, Prashant, you're already a data engineer. All right. What about programming? Can you elaborate a bit? Okay, dentistry. Nice.
Time to reflect.
Sorry, Prashant, I missed what you said.
I just typed a minute back, maybe.
Sorry, but I was still unable to get what you said. Probably you'll have to type on the chat. Your voice was cracking a lot. Okay, this is interesting. Teacher or ICT administrator and administrator. But what is ICT? I don't know. Okay, ECE. I'm also from ECE. I was from ECE. Now I'm in IT completely. So cool. BSc student non-programming, senior analyst non-programming. Cool. All right. CSE final year. Wait. BSc, CS. Okay, you know a couple of languages. Okay, AdWords. You mean Google AdWords? Praneeth. Okay, this is interesting. Cool. Okay. Okay. Okay, nice. That's interesting. Just wait. Great. Cool. All right. Nice. I have some idea about this thing now. Cool. Okay. Something on chat also. ICT is information communication technology. Okay. Nice. Where did I? Okay. Nice. Cool. Pretty elaborate backgrounds. Pretty different. Nice. Now let's go to this thing. All right, I hope everyone has downloaded this thing. So I'm using a Windows machine, which is Windows 10. All right. If anyone is using an older version of Windows, like 7 or 8 or something, let me know upfront, because the installation of the software on those Windows might not work upfront. Okay. I'll help you separately for installing on that. Otherwise, for this thing, for if anyone is using Windows 10, the normal installer which you download from here works pretty well. Okay. Now what I'll do is, I think I downloaded it somewhere. So I'll just open this thing. Now let it open. It may take some time to open itself, depending on how like good or how old or new your system is, how powerful it is. So this is open for me. Now look very carefully. This says welcome to Anaconda 3. All right. First thing is we are installing Anaconda 3. Initially, if you would have gone to Anaconda's website probably in a year back or something, it would have had two options, Anaconda and Anaconda 3 or Anaconda 2 and 3. Now there's a default option of 3. Initially, it wasn't like that. All right. I'll answer your question, Bhavya. Give me a second. So initially it would have been different, but now if you go to the website, it just says Python 3.8. So just for your knowledge, if you're not aware, there are two versions of Python, Python 2 and Python 3. Python 2's support has been officially stopped in the sense like they are not releasing any new bug fixes or version updates. So 3 is the official version of Python right now. And Anaconda also has started giving only this option on their homepage. But if someone needs to download Anaconda 2, you can definitely go to the Anaconda archive page and download from there. All right. I'll talk about it after we do the installation. Cool. So once you open this thing, it will show you something like this. On Mac, the view looks a bit different. All right. So we'll just click on next. You obviously have to agree to the license agreement. There's no other option. And I'll tell you why we are installing Anaconda and what Anaconda exactly gives you. What is Anaconda and how it relates to Python later. All right. And while you're installing, I prefer this option. Install for all users. All right, instead of just me. Depending on your system, whether you are using a personal system or maybe an office system, depends. So this is my personal laptop, so I can do anything, pretty much anything with it. But if you're using an office laptop, probably you might not get admin privileges, so you might need to click on just me. So just give it a try, all users, and if it doesn't work out, just use just me option. Cool. Another important point to note is if you select this option, just me versus all users, the next option is going to change. Okay, I'll just show you. Once you click on next, so it asks me for permissions, then it will show you the install location. So if you select all users, it's going to show you C program data or program file /Anaconda 3. Okay. If you select just me, it's going to be C/user/your username /app data /some folder. All right. It's going to be like that. So wherever you're installing, just take a note of this location. It's not needed actually. It's needed only if something goes bad or something is not set up properly by this Anaconda installer. Otherwise, it's fine. All right. And Anaconda is a freely available software, so you don't have to worry about any licenses or something. That's why we are using an individual edition. There are other options as well. If you would have noticed, initially there were individual, commercial, team, enterprise, and many more. Cool. So we are using individual, which is free for use. So we'll come back. So take a note of this location. So I already have a installation at this place. I'll just change it to 3.1, let's say. I'll click on next. Now look at the screen very carefully. This is very important. When you see the screen, if you are installing Anaconda for the first time or you haven't worked with Python ever, make sure you put a check mark in both of these boxes, even though it gives you a warning, but it's very important. All right. What it says is, if you have already installed another version of Python, probably it might get messed up, but if you haven't installed anything, just put a tick in both the things. All right. So we are going to override the default Python with the Python that Anaconda installs. And this is very important. Otherwise, if you don't check it right now, some things will not work later. It's easy to fix them, but you'll have to fix them. So it's an additional step. Better to avoid that and make sure you put a tick in both of these checkboxes and then hit install. I won't hit install because it's already there on my system. I'll click on cancel and I'll just stop this thing. Now, let me know if you guys have any questions regarding installation and I'll answer your question. Anything, guys? Are you able to install? Anyone facing any trouble? Feel free to ping or unmute yourself. Okay. I hope you guys have started the installation. So can anyone tell me how long does it show for the setup to be finished?
So far, so good. It is almost like 90% is completed.
90% done. All right, great. Which system are you having? Like Windows?
Yeah, Windows.
What's the config?
Sorry?
Like which system? Like what laptop? Laptop or
No,
desktop?
desktop.
With desktop? Okay, on desktop it might work better. Depends. So if you have a good, decent kind of system, then it would work pretty fine. Like any i7 kind of processor with like at least 8 gigabytes of RAM. And maybe if you have SSDs are much faster than your hard drives. So it installs much faster on an SSD than on a hard drive. So
Yeah, I'm using SSD.
okay, yeah, great. That's the reason it's 90% so fast. Otherwise, it might show you at least 10 to 20 minutes on a hard drive. Great. So guys, any trouble you are facing apart from this thing, that also you can ask me. And there was a question from, hold on, regarding, are you providing certification after 4 days workshop? I'm not sure. So I'm just the trainer, all right, or I just take training, all right. And this kind of question can be answered by whoever you were in touch before attending this thing, or maybe you just signed up. So you can contact anyone from the tutor team and you can get in touch with them and ask them if there's going to be a certification. So I'm not at all aware. And I don't know whether you like it or not. I'll just tell you when I was in college what was my thought process. I was initially also thinking of getting certifications, so it varies by case to case. But then later I realized I'll focus on knowledge, and I was going to take certification for Java and all. There's some OCJP, SCJP kind of thing. But later I realized I am not interested in certification. I want to learn. So I left the certification thing, and till now I don't have any I have only one certificate, which was forced on me by a company that I had joined for a short time. Otherwise, I don't have any certifications, and I'm from this branch, which is ECE, Electronics and Communication. Cool. All right. But you can still ask for a certificate. Probably it might help you if you are asking from an interview perspective or from a fresher's perspective. You can definitely ask for a certificate. All right. It may help. If I were in your place, I would also have preferred if someone gave me a certificate. So feel free to ask. Cool. So I'll wait for some more time before the installation. I think it will take some time. So has the installation finished for anyone right now?
It's done on my system.
Great. What else about others? We'll start from, well, guys, feel free to unmute. Otherwise, I'll start speaking random names and start asking you questions. So, Jaspreet, what about you? Gautam,
Hi, Gaurav.
hey,
It's still stuck at 90%.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, cool, no worries. What about others? Done, Nishant.
Done.
Yes, some static coming from someone, guys. Okay. There was a lot of static, so sorry, I had to mute you. Cool.
So will
Cool.
you
So,
check all users or just me? All users, I
sorry,
think. All
you
users.
prefer to use all users. If it doesn't work, like you don't have admin privileges on the system, then you can
Okay.
try the just me option, because often what happens is a lot of working people have their office laptops and they join from that. And on office laptops, you don't have admin privileges. Your
Yeah,
company
yeah,
disables that. Yeah. So
yeah.
then just go for this. Just me. Sometimes for those lucky people, even just me doesn't work. So that happens. Then,
Okay.
yeah, if that's the thing, see, typically, not typically, I have seen a lot of people or a lot of courses and many instructors saying like use Google Collab or something like that. All right. So Google Collab is a online collaboratory or a way where you can use Jupyter notebooks. So we have installed
Yeah.
the software Anaconda, but under the from Anaconda package, we are going to use Jupyter notebooks. So Google Collab is one such option. But see, I think it's a good option if you already know how to use or how to install the software. You are pretty good at it, fine. But otherwise, if you are new to programming or anything, you should know how softwares work, how they're installed. Because ultimately, if you are going to work in industry and write code, you should know how tools work, how to install them, what is installation, what is the software, what happens when you install it. And that you learn only when you actually do it on a physical system, like you have a desktop or a laptop or on a remote machine. If you know what a remote machine is, some people might not know. So otherwise, if nothing is working right now, for now you can pick this Google collaboratory option. All right. And later we can see. Today we are not going to do much of code, but still. Cool. So we are here, and did anyone get an error like unable to create shortcuts or something like that? Any lucky person getting this error, unable to create shortcuts or something after the installation finishes? If that happens, ask me for help. I'll tell you what to do. I have seen that many times, so I'll be able to help you out. Cool. Now let's talk about what we are here for. So what is this Anaconda? All right, and what is Python? So Python is a programming language. It allows you to express something that you want your computer to do in the form of code. So that's what programming languages do. You want to automate something, you want your computer to do it, you have to tell it how to do it. To tell it how to do it, you have to speak its language. And the language of your computer is binary. All right. But there are many programming languages out there. Python, Scala, C, C++, Lua, this, that. So many are there. All right. But you're still not talking in the computer's language, which is binary. Probably you would have studied in school. There's a language called as binary language, and your computer talks that language. Since that time, it is still talking that binary language, but people are writing code in Python and this, that. So how does your system still understand your Python code, and how does it do the job that you intended to do? I'll talk about it and how Python works. But let's come to Python versus Anaconda. So when you just Google Python, if you do this on your system, you'll get this link called as python.org. Fine, this is the official website of Python, and that's the official logo. And if you go here, you can see downloads, and it says Python 3.9.6. Cool. Whereas when we go to Anaconda, and if you would have seen, it said Python 3.8. So it's a minor version behind the minor version of this thing. So the minor version of this thing is it's 9. The major version is 3. Major means the number on the leftmost side. So it's 3 both of the places, but the minor version is different. Cool. So why aren't we downloading Python from here and installing it? If anyone tries to download from here and installs it, probably someone would have already done on your system. You would notice this is very small, 20-30 MBs, not like a half GB size installation size. That's pretty huge. Now what happens is, so when you're working with Python is a programming language. So Python comes with a certain kind of tools through which you can do certain or achieve certain things. But when you're actually working practically with Python, you need to do a lot of things which don't come packaged with Python already. It's like you buy a vehicle and you have to buy the accessories along with it. Otherwise, you just get a vehicle with some things without an AC and all that stuff. Cool. So same way when you install Python, it just gives you the programming language with a bunch of built-in libraries. But to do something like probably working with data science and all, you need a lot of different libraries. So what Anaconda does is it packages all those libraries, the common ones, all right, which it also mentions over here, couple of them, all right, not everything. This is a bunch of them which they mention. All right, they package all the things and give you a single installer, which is somewhat bigger in size. So when you install this thing, now when you start working, you don't have to go and check whether this library is installed on my system for Python or not. Otherwise, you'll have to install it and all that. And now what happens is sometimes there are compatibility issues. You install Python 3.8, someone is using some other version, and they tell you that, okay, to run this code, you need to install this library. You install it on your system and it doesn't work out. So what this Anaconda does is it picks all the compatible libraries, packages it together, and when you install it, everything works seamlessly. So that's why we are using Anaconda. And within Anaconda, they actually package this Python itself. Not exactly this version, some version of Python, what they have mentioned on the website, but actually they package this Python along with the libraries and give it to you, and that's it. Fine. So once Anaconda is installed, I want you guys to open a terminal, all right, or a command prompt. So how do you open it on Windows is you press Windows button, type CMD, and you get this thing. Cool. So just open this thing if you don't know how to do it. So I'll call it by multiple names: CMD, terminal, command prompt, many names are there. On Mac, you can just press command space and type terminal. It will open a terminal window, which will also be a black terminal. Cool. And once you do this thing, I want to type over there Python, and it should show this kind of thing. After doing this thing, if it doesn't work on anyone's system, let me know, because this should be working after installing Anaconda. So Anaconda installs Python on your system, and you can see that the version says is 3.8.8. Try it and let me know if it works or not. Works for everyone, guys? Okay, I hope it works then. Okay, great. Now this is something called as Python interpreter or Python interactive shell or something like that. Many names are there, and if you want, you can just, I'll just put it down. So what it's called as Python interpreter or Python interactive shell. Or just Python shell, anything like that. All right, and if this thing is working, so welcome to Python. So this is, you are inside Python's interpreter, and you can write some code over there. So all right, my bad. If I say 1 + 1, it says 2. I think that's correct. So this is your first line of Python code if you don't know Python. So you're just telling Python to add two numbers, 1 and 1, and it gives you the answer as 2, and that's it, done. This is how you start writing Python code. Everyone able to do this? You can try something else also. 1 + 3. You can try 1*3. 1*3 means you are doing hey guys, someone just deleted everything. Can you just undo a bit over here on this thing? Command Z or Control Z, so that things are there. Just press Control Z. Or wait. There's an option of history somewhere, probably. Anyone playing around with this thing? I guess yes. Guys, please don't play around with this thing. It's not for fun. All right. And if you have done it by mistake, please undo whatever you have done. All right. Undo the delete. That would be great. And being nasty is not something good. So probably get it back. All right. Let's get back. Anyways, so that's one thing. Now coming back to our this thing, terminal or command prompt. So this is your Python interpreter. To exit this interpreter, you can just type exit and you'll be back to the Windows terminal. So there are two different terminals if you notice over here. One is your Windows terminal or the Windows prompt. So where your cursor is blinking right now, which is my username / something. So this is your Windows prompt. If I type 1 + 1 over here, it doesn't know. Why? Because this is not executing Python code. But if I type Python over here, Python, and I'm into the interpreter right now. If I type 1+1, it very well recognizes what to do. So there is a difference, and you can notice that by the arrows also over here. All right, so the prompt changes. So this is called as the prompt. So the prompt over here is different versus the prompt over here. So this prompt is different. So this is Python prompt. And only at this prompt, you'll be able to run Python code. Otherwise, you won't be able to run this thing. So we're not going to work on a terminal. All right, we are going to work on a thing called as Jupyter Notebook. I'll show you how to use that. But this is your Python interpreter. You can open Python interpreter directly also. Hold on. It should give me an option of Python. All right, I think it hasn't created the shortcut. Idle. So there's something called as idle as well inside your Python thing. When you install Python, this gets installed. A lot of people write code with idle. I don't write, but you can do pretty much the same thing with this thing also. All right. So both options are there. Any questions or doubts or anything right now, guys? Any help you need on installation? Are you able to not do this thing? Then let me know. I'll help you out. Cool. All right. So what we are going to do is whatever code or whatever things or whatever artifacts that I create during these sessions, I'm going to submit or upload it over here. So who is not aware by what is Git or GitHub? Guys, can you tell me? Who is aware, like who all is aware what is Git, what is GitHub? I have some idea.
Never used it to date.
Never used?
No.
Okay. Okay. So guys, do you know Google Drive? I think many people would know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, you are aware, just breathe. Great. So Google Drive is what? It's a place where you can upload documents and also share it with people. All right. So there is a thing called as Git. All right. And there is a thing called as GitHub. So Git is something which we call as version control system. For example, right now someone deleted everything and I don't know how to get it back. Cool. That's a problem. There's no history. I think there is a history. I don't know where to access it. I think it used to be there. I'm not sure. But anyways, it doesn't matter to me. This thing is not that important. So there's something called as who did what, like who deleted this stuff. So this Git software allows you to see what has changed. For example, when you upload a document to a Google Drive, all right, and then later you do some modifications, it won't show you the history, what changed, who changed it. But with Git, you can maintain a version history that at this point of time, this was the content present inside this folder or whatever the thing was. So Git is a software that allows you to do that. Now you can install Git on your system and store the content on your system. Now what happens is GitHub is like an online Git or version control system where you can store your content on the services which is being hosted or provided by GitHub, which is now owned by Microsoft for free. If you're creating something like a public folder on Google Drive. All right, so this is a public repository. So if I just give you this code on this thing on the chat, so if you just open this thing, you all be able to access this thing and see the same page which I'm seeing. All right, you'll be able to see this page. Now what happens is this is like a Google Drive. So I can add things to it. I can add documents to it. I can see different versions of the same document. But to add things to this thing, it's not like Google Drive. Like you can do a drag and drop kind of thing, depending on whether you are doing it via the GUI. But typically people in the IT industry or people who work in IT, they don't do it like this. What they do is they install a software on their system called as Git. All right, Git is the software. And for Windows users, you can just install Git SCM. If you are a Mac user, not a Windows user, or maybe a Linux user, you will already be having Git on your system already. You don't need to install anything. You can just type Git and it will show you a couple of options like this. All right. And if Git is not installed on your system, you'll get an error like Git command not found or something like that. For example, if I type GIT2T, because there's nothing like the Git with the double T on my system, so it says an error like this. So this is what you'll get if it's not installed. But if it is installed, you'll get these options, like what all you can do. So if you want to work with this repository, there are two options. You can either download the entire piece of code by going to this option and download the zip option. But a better option is to learn about Git and GitHub. All right. Although I would like to know how to use and coordinate the GitHub desktop with online if possible. Sorry, just are you
Uh,
asking that should be done or? Mhm.
Hey Gaurav, this is Prashant.
Yeah, Prashant.
Uh, can you go to that Google Doc? I just saw history where we can recover the document. One
Okay,
document.
thanks a lot.
In a file. In a file.
Okay, over
Can you go
here.
to a and I could see the same version history.
Okay, over
The
here.
yeah, and see the version history. Yeah,
Okay, thanks a lot. Let's see what
I
comes.
just noticed. I think it's at around yeah 9 or something.
Okay, let's leave it. But thanks for letting me know. Thanks a lot. Because what I posted over there was not that important right now. I'll do one thing. I'll be adding most of the code over here. So this is a read-only repository for everyone. It's not
Yeah.
something which anyone can push to. So there won't be any issues over here.
Yeah.
But thanks for letting me know. Great. Cool. Yeah, Jaspreet, you were saying something?
Yeah, what I was asking was, I have created repositories like online by going into github.com.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But is there a possibility that I do it on GitHub desktop and then upload over, like connect both of them?
Yeah, you can. So what happens is, see, there are two things. One is the repository and one is adding content to a repository. So consider repository like a Google Drive folder. All right. So whoever doesn't know. So once you have created a folder, you can add content to it. But for creating a repository, you'll have to use GitHub itself. So there are two separate things. One is Git and one is GitHub. So GitHub is a version is a what platform provided for free by GitHub with some paid versions as well. So to create a repository on GitHub, you'll have to use GitHub in some way. Maybe using GitHub Desktop, the software which you get like this thing, GitHub Desktop.
Yeah.
Or you can Google and you'll get this thing. So this is from GitHub itself. So you can either create via this thing or maybe from this platform itself. You can just go over here. You'll find this plus sign over here and you can say new repository. But for that, you'll have to first create an account on GitHub, and creating an account on GitHub is as simple as like signing up on any other website, social platform.
I've done that already. Like I have posted around four or five repositories also.
Okay, great.
I was just wondering if it can be done through GitHub desktop, because I downloaded that also. I was trying to make a repository over there and try to connect. I mean, upload on this, but I was sort of unable to do so. That's why I was asking.
I have never tried GitHub Desktop. What I do typically is, when I'm working with a repository, I create repository from here. But whatever remaining things I do it from the Git software, not even from GitHub Desktop. I don't have GitHub Desktop on my system right now. I used to have it before
I have sort of stopped using that actually.
Yeah, I don't think people here. I think people rarely would use it. I am not a GUI user. I'm a terminal user, so I prefer this thing.
Right.
All right, cool. But anything works. Whatever gets the job done. So anything should work. All right.
Thank you.
Cool. No issues. So okay. So what you have to do is, we or I won't be telling you about Git much, like what is Git and apart from whatever I have already told you and how to use Git. So, but everyone should learn Git. Okay, whether you're in college, you should learn Git. Probably put on your CV also. Okay. I'll be very likely to hire a person who knows Git at least before they enter the industry. So learn what is Git. It's a tool. All right. It's a tool. It's not a programming language. Remember this thing. It's a tool which allows things to become easier for developers to collaborate on things or collaborate on a project where multiple people are working. It can be 2 people, it can be 100, it can be 1,000 people working on the same project. So it allows you to collaborate or push or put code together easily. All right. So what you have to do is for Windows, you have to go and click on this download for Windows option. And once you click on download, after it downloads, it's a small software. It will download immediately. When you install it, you don't need to change any options. Just click next. Leave all the default options as it is. If you know what you are doing, or if you know what that option does, you want to change it, feel free to do it. That's an option. But otherwise, don't worry about it. Just click next, and it will just install. Fine. And once it is installed, you guys have to do again this thing. You have to go to a terminal and see if Git works. If it gives you an error or it just says that these are the options, all right, Git should work on your system. Cool. And once Git works, what you can do is now look at my screen carefully. You go to this page which I've shared with you. I think everyone should be able to access because I remember I had made it a public repository, not a private one. You go to this thing, you copy this link. You can either copy HTTPS or SSH. I prefer SSH option, so I'll just click on this copy icon. It says copied. Now I'll go to this terminal and I want to clone it on my desktop. All right. If you're using Windows 10, I'll just show you what you guys have to do. You can click on open in, all right, you won't get this option, open in Windows terminal. So what you can do is you can press Shift, then right click and click on open PowerShell window here. Once this thing opens up, you can see that it says DE data desktop. That's the location of my desktop folder, but it's desktop. So that's what I wanted to show. So you can say git clone, and after git clone, you just type this thing. All right. And for me, it gives an error because I've already cloned this folder. So I'll just delete it right now in front of you, and I'll run this command again. To run this thing, I don't need to type it again. I just press up key and the same command comes up and it says cloning into this thing. Cool. Once it clones, it will create a folder. You can see this folder is getting created and it got populated with a file. And the file says readme.md. All right. So I'll just say edit with notepad++. And I'll just put this thing over here. The command which I use, git clone. All right. And I have saved this thing. Once I've saved this thing, I'll go over here. I'll say git status. This is another command. All right. Sorry, this. See, when I cloned this thing, a folder got created by this name. All right, which is this thing. All right. I'll copy this name from here and I'll say cd space. And to copy and paste things into this terminal, what you have to do is you have to do a right click. If you do a right click, things get pasted. If you select something and then do a right click, it gets copied. So when I selected it, now I right click, it got copied. After I did the second right click, it got pasted also. So that's how you do copy paste on terminal. All right. So I say cd. Cd means go inside this folder. Now you can see the folder changes. I'm inside this folder. Now I do git status. Now you can see it gives some information. If you are new to Git, you will see a lot of random information or random words are spit out by this Git software. So it says changes not staged for commit, what is staging, what is commit, and all that you'll gradually learn as you start using Git. But basically what it's saying is I have modified this file readme.md. That's what it is saying. All right. If I do another command git diff, it shows me what has changed. So it says I have added this content, git clone this thing. It will also show you what has changed inside this file. Cool. Now I'll add more commands that I've used right now. Git status. All right, status means check what's happening. Git diff. Diff means check what has changed. And there is another option, git add. So I'll do now one thing, git add readme.md. This is the file name. And I do git status. So we are not talking about Python right now. We are just talking about the tool. All right. I'm just giving you a brief overview, then we'll come to Python. So it shows in green now. Green means it says changes to be committed. Committed means I'm telling Git like whatever changes I've done to this file, just try to save it. But for saving it, it's called as commit in Git. So I'll say git commit -m, let's say update, add git commands to readme. All right. But before I do it, I want to add more commands to it. So I'll say git add readme.md. You can specify a file name. Then I'll say git commit -m, and I'll copy this thing and paste over there. Cool. So these are the commands that I'm going to do right now. So I'll stop this thing. I'll save this file again. You can see I'm using a software notepad++ to edit this file. You can open any kind of editor and edit this file. And once I save this thing, it turns blue. So it's saved. Now I'll do git status again. It says readme had been modified earlier. Those changes are there. But after that, I had modified again. So I'll say git add readme.md again. And I'll now run this command, which was the git commit command. Now I'll say git this thing commit this thing. So it says like I have to configure my username and this thing. So I'll say git config this thing user.email as my email. And I'll also save the username, whatever I want. Cool. So I'll say that's my username. Cool. Now I'll do a git commit again, and this time it should commit ideally. So it says committed. Now I do git status, and it says you have to use git push. Now I'll say git push. Let's see if it is able to push or not. So it did a push. All right. So what happens is, for pushing or to add something to a repository, you have to be logged in. So I'm already logged into my Git account over here. So once you go through a Git tutorial, you'll learn about all those things. But these are the basic commands that I wanted to show you. Now what would have happened is, you see this repository used to look like this. So it says readme.md looks like this. Now if I reload this thing, you can see all those commands are there, but they look ugly. So I can go and edit this file from here as well. So I'll just put 2 spaces after each thing. So this thing uses something called as Markdown. Markdown is a way of writing documents which get formatted. And now you can see all of the things appear in separate lines. Now I'll just commit changes from here. So this is a public repository, but I'm the owner of this repository. I've not added anyone of you into this repository. So you won't be able to do any kind of modifications to it. You can just read it. All right, that's why it's safe, much safer than this Google Doc, which is shared as editor with everyone. So now this is the state of this repository. Cool. Now what happens is, but if I check my local code, so it looks a bit different. All right, it doesn't have 2 spaces at the end. So what I do is I run another command, git pull. What git pull does is it pulls the changes that have been done by anyone on this repository. So if multiple people are working there, adding their code or making changes to this folder or adding new files, if you want to get all that has been added, there are 2 options. Either you download fresh again and again, or you just go to the same folder and you just say git pull. So that's the benefit of using Git. You can push or add changes, you can pull what others are pushing, and all the stuff can happen. So guys, go through a Git tutorial. If you are willing to learn Python or any programming language and enter into data science or any kind of IT related field, learn this thing, Git and GitHub. It's very important. All right. And now if I go to this file, so it says reload. And now once I reload, you can see there are 2 spaces that I had put earlier over there. Cool. So this is how your Git basically works. And I'll be doing this Git commit and Git push over the time we are together. Cool. So this is your Git. Any questions right now? Anything, guys? No? Okay.
No.
All right, guys. So cool. Now we can come back to Python and actually start working with it. Fine. So I hope everyone has installed this Anaconda software. Okay. So now if you have installed Anaconda, I want you to do one thing. Press your Windows key or open the start menu or open whatever is there on your MacBook, command space, and type Jupyter space notebook, or you just type Jupyter JUPY, and it will show you something like this. Once you open this thing, it will open a terminal first. All right, and then open a tab in your default browser. So my default browser is this thing, Chrome. So it opens a tab over there and it shows certain folders over here. All right, so it is actually showing you this. I'll show you. It is showing you this thing, the content of this folder. If you notice 3D objects, contacts, this, that, many things are there. So when you run this Jupyter Notebook, it by default opens a kind of server inside this folder. So whatever is present over here, it shows you. All right. But what I want to do is, so typically this thing should work for you guys. If you open just Jupyter Notebook and it opens it inside this folder, that's fine. No issues. But what I want to do is I want to open it inside the same repository or the folder which I had copied from Git or I had cloned from Git. So to do that, what I do is I open a terminal inside this folder. Now again, there are 2 ways. You press Shift key, you press right click, and you open this thing. Open PowerShell window or open Windows terminal if you have installed Windows terminal. Otherwise, there is another shortcut, CMD. Go to the address bar, type CMD over there, hit enter. It opens a terminal in this folder directly. Now you type Jupyter space notebook. You hit enter, and it does the same thing, but now it will show you the contents of this folder, which is this readme.md. And you don't ever mess up with this folder, which is called as .git. All right, if you mess up, that's fine. I don't have any issues. It's your Git folder, but don't mess up with it. Cool. So guys, now try to open this Jupyter Notebook on your system. If you face any trouble, let me know. Whoever knows already how to do this thing, great. But we'll have to wait for everyone. So just let me know once you guys are done with this thing. You are able to open Jupyter Notebook. Probably you would have also cloned the repository. Let me know. Can we get recording? I think probably you'll get it, Venkatesh. I think you should get. So shoot these kind of questions to the folks who are managing this thing at Tutor. All right. I don't know how you guys are contacting them. So probably via mail or maybe on a call. All right. I think you should definitely get it after we end all this. Otherwise, I'll ask them to send a recording because they'll already be having your. When you register, do you also register with your mail ID? Is it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so then they have your mail ID. I'll ask them to drop. I don't know if this will be uploaded to YouTube or some channel. Probably it would be. So I'll ask them to drop you a link with that. Cool. So this thing is getting recorded. I think that Zoom would have already told you. Okay, then let's come back. So are you guys able to open Jupyter Notebook? Anyone facing any kind of trouble? Yes, no, something? No? No troubles, all good? Then we'll continue. Okay. See guys, what we are going to do is now we'll start with Python. Okay. And so the agenda for this course or whatever you say it or call it was something like this. I'll just type it out over here. Okay. So I'll close the version thing. And let's go back. Cool. So I'll put the boundary again. Okay. So one thing is intro and installation. Cool. Second thing is data types, etc., which is for tomorrow. Probably we'll see a bit of it today. All right. Next thing is loops, etc. And the last thing is intro to hooks or object-oriented programming. So I'll tell more about me in the intro part gradually over the next few days. But this is what we have kind of done right now already. So we'll come to this thing. One thing that actually got missed over here, since we are already packed with 4 days itself, there's no 5th day. So we are going to do it in 4 days. One important thing is intro to functions. I missed that while this thing was getting written. So because for object-oriented programming, intro to object-oriented programming, we are going to need functions. All right. So this is going to be the agenda broadly. All right. And this is intro about you, intro of me, and intro to Python, and intro to Jupyter, and everything. Cool. So now let's get into Python. So let's start. So this Anaconda, or this software that we installed initially, that gives you a bunch of tools for writing code. All right. So for writing code, you need tools. People use PyCharm. People use Notepad++, just like this. All right, which I was using over here. And they write code over here. They run the code from a terminal like this, and that's how they write code. That's also possible. But typically in industry, what people do is for speeding up the process or for doing things quickly, specifically in the data science and machine learning kind of side of things, they use this Jupyter Notebook or Jupyter Lab a lot. I see mostly people using Jupyter Notebook. Jupyter Lab was released some time back, but it's an upgraded version of Jupyter Notebook, you can say. And but people use this tool most of the time, so it's good. If you don't know, then you should learn it. All right, so Jupyter Notebook shows you this kind of interface, and it opens a terminal over here. If you see this thing is running something called as a local server on your system. So if you just close this terminal and then try to use this thing, it won't work. All right, so make sure this thing is running. And in this thing also, don't click anywhere. If you by chance click anywhere, click there, hit enter 1 or 2 times so that the cursor keeps on blinking. Otherwise your server will get stuck. This is a problem that happens only in Windows. It doesn't happen on Linux or Mac, so it's fine. Cool. Now if you look at this thing, there are a couple of options. We are interested in this thing over here, upload and new. So if you click on this new drop down, you will get this option called as Python 3. So we have installed Jupyter only with Python 3. Jupyter has other options for other programming languages also. So you feel free to try something like Julia or something else. Okay, but if you click on this Python 3, it quickly opens a new tab and open something which we call as a Jupyter Notebook. So this thing that you are seeing is called as a Jupyter Notebook, and they always have an extension IPYNB. Okay, these are the extensions for Jupyter Notebooks. So if I go to this folder where I had created a repo, so you'll see this folder gets added, untitled.ipynb. Okay, but apart from that, it also creates another temporary folder or a folder for its own bookkeeping, which is IPynb checkpoints. It's not of interest for us. It's of interest for this software. It's not for us. It's not useful. So you're worried about this thing. So once this thing opens up, you will also see that this thing is showing up as green. So if I go over here and I click on, once I put a tick mark, you see other additional options pop up. These were not available without the tick mark. So once I tick, you have an option for shutdown, you have an option for delete. Once you shut down, now you go to this thing, it says it's dead. So you can either restart or you can just close it. I'll close it. Now this file is there. If I put a tick again, now the options are different because it's not running. You can rename it, you can move it, you can do multiple things from it. But what I'll do is I'll just click on this thing. Once I click it, it opens the same Jupyter Notebook again, and it showed a small pop-up, kernel ready. So it was ready now. All right. If I go back, it's again green. So this is how you can open Jupyter Notebook. In Jupyter Notebook, this is something called as a cell. If I type 1+1 over here, and then I go to this button, which is run, I run it, it gives me the output as 2. It's the same thing that we did on the terminal. All right. But the good thing about Jupyter Notebook is on terminal, whatever you did, after you closed it, it's gone. Jupyter Notebook is a file which is saved. So it gets saved. It says unsaved changes. Once I press Control S, it says auto save. It's saved now. All right, so it will be available till the time you don't delete this file. This is your Jupyter Notebook, and these things are called as cells. So the active cell is highlighted by green, and the inactive cell is like this. It's not highlighted, but a selected cell can also be blue instead of green. So how did I go from green to blue? I press the escape key on my keyboard. So if you do that, it will come blue. If you hit enter, it will become green again. Once it becomes green, you can start typing things over here like this. Print, say, and when I run this code, it just shows me the output. So this command is to print my name. It prints my name on the screen. Can you guys try this quick on your system? Let me know if you face any trouble. And the shortcut to run the code is Control Enter. All right. And I prefer shortcuts. It's like a lot of work to remove my hand from the keyboard and go to the touchpad or mouse and then go to the run and then come back over here. So prefer to use shortcuts. Shortcut is Control plus Enter. There is another shortcut which is Shift Enter. What Shift Enter does is after running code, it also moves your cursor to the next cell, or it automatically creates a new cell. So that's what it does. Okay. Try these two options, Control Enter and Shift Enter. And whenever you're working with anything in your life, this is one thing, learning a programming language or something new. Try to learn smartly. Smartly means like, don't take shortcuts, but shortcuts like this, which make you work efficiently, are something you should learn. So that's what I mean by working smartly. All right. Cool. So this is one thing. So the two shortcuts are Control Enter and Shift Enter. Remember that. If you want to write it somewhere, write it down, or I'll write it for you. Where should I write it? So I'll go over here. I'll open this readme.md. I'll write it. All right. So what do they both do is run cell and create a new one below. Cool. There is another shortcut. For example, if you see, I am in this cell. So if I type anything, A, B, C, or whatever, it gets typed over here. So if I press escape, now it becomes blue. There's no cursor. Now if I press A, it creates a new cell above. If I go here and I press B, it creates a new cell below. All right, so there is a shortcut small a, create cell above. There's a shortcut B, which says create cell below. All right, pretty intuitive. And both of these work in escape mode. They don't work if you are inside edit mode. All right, so this is edit mode. When your cursor is there, this is edit mode. Escape mode means it's blue. Cool. So this is how your some basic shortcuts of Jupyter Notebook. All right. Any questions do you have right now, guys? Anything? No, nothing. All going good. Any other kind of doubts apart from this thing? I think Dhruv, who knows Jupyter Notebook? I think Dhruv, you know. Apart from you, who all knows? Anyone knows?
Not me, not me. I don't know.
Okay. So if you want me to repeat something, feel free to do that, guys. I won't get to know if you don't speak up. All right. So the agenda for this thing, for me, the agenda is that you guys learn something, all right, and you enjoy it. And that's my agenda. I'm not sure what all is in your mind. Can we use Collab instead? Yes, you can use. Feel free to use that for now. But as I said, like prefer to have a local setup. All right, it's always good to know it. Fine. Because when you'll be working in some organization, you will be working on a Jupyter Notebook. So this Jupyter Notebook is running on my local system. Typically, what people do is they run it on a remote server. So they run it on their remote server, then open an SSH tunnel from their remote server to their desktop or their laptop, and then run it on their system. So that's how people do often. Sometimes companies or organizations provide this for their employees. That's a different case. But anyways, for your own work, please set it up on your local. For now, use Google Colab, no issues. But Google Colab would be slower. Definitely, it's going to be slower than your local terminal. That's also a benefit of using your local setup. Okay. Now this is your very basic thing. All right. Now let's come to programming in general and let's talk about it a bit. Can anyone tell me what is programming? Anyone? It's a very small, like very simple thing. You would have studied multiple times in your school, maybe in your college also. Maybe you would have already done programming. Or what is program? Not a program, not programming.
Program is a set of instruction given to a computer.
Yeah. And to make it do something useful. All right. Simple. That's it. And that's it. That's a program. Now, program is a set of instructions. Now you can write that instruction in any kind of language, as I told you, Python, C, C++, is that. But does your computer actually understand that language? No, it doesn't. In your school, maybe you would have studied, at least I studied the same thing for multiple years, so I remember it now. That there is a low level language which is binary, there is a mid level language which is assembly, then there are high level languages like C, C++ and all that. So but your system's language is the lowest level or the low level language which is binary. So when you write your program in Python, does your system understand it? No. So how does it get to understand it? What to do? It has to be converted to binary. Who does the conversion? There are two kinds of softwares, probably you would remember, compiler and there is interpreter. Which one does Python use? Can anyone answer this thing?
Interpreter.
All right, that's good. So Python is an interpreted language. So it means it doesn't use compiler, or does it use?
No.
No? Okay. What is the difference between the two? I'll quickly explain to you guys. Consider you're writing a letter to someone, all right? And that letter has to be sent to many people. By now, your letter is written in your own native language. You know that language. And the other person doesn't understand your language. Let's say they talk German. All right, cool. Now in German, you have to give them some instructions or whatever your letter says. Let's say you're telling them how to make tea and you have to write a letter to them. What do? You find someone who does the conversion for you. You get the letter converted in German. Now you can send it to them. Cool. Simple. Now they can read the instructions and make tea or coffee, whatever you wanted to make them. They are happy, you are happy, everyone's happy. Now you want to give the same instructions to someone else. That person also speaks German, but now you have that on a piece of paper. You can create multiple copies of it. Cool. So you create a copy, you take a backup copy, you create a copy, give it to them. Do you need to do the conversion again, or do you need the person who did the conversion again? No. That's what compiler does simply. All right. So what compiler does is it reads the code written in your high-level programming language, converts it to binary, and dumps it in a file. That's what you download when you install the software. .exe file. They are binary files. You can give it to anyone. They will run on their system, and that's it. Simple. So you don't have to do conversion again and again. But now let's say while making tea, instead of writing a letter, you have to tell it orally to someone. Cool. So what you do is you find a translator, you start speaking, and as you speak a sentence, you pause. They convert that sentence to this thing, to the German language. The other person goes and executes the step. Let's say they want to boil water first. So you put water, boil it. Then you give the next instruction. That gets translated to German. They do the next step. Like that, it keeps on happening, and you have a tea at the end. Fine. But now if you want to issue the same instructions again, what happens? Do you need the translator again? Yes, that's called as interpreter. Interpreter means you are converting the thing from high level language to the binary language on the code. Did everyone understood the difference?
Yeah, got it.
That's the simplest one I have in my mind. But is there any benefit or advantage of one over the other? What do you think? It's a question for you. Is there any benefit of compiler versus interpreter? Which one is better? Guys, answer.
Don't exactly know, like
Anything that comes to your mind.
advantage.
With compiler, there was one advantage. See, if you're running your program on your computer, converting from high level to low level language, does it take time? Yes. So if you run a compiled program again and again, will it take the conversion time? No, it will be faster. But for the interpreted program, what happens? You have to convert again and again. So will it be slower? Yes. That's why interpreted languages are often slower than compiled languages, and you'll hear this thing a lot. All right. But there is an advantage with interpreted languages. You can change things at runtime. For example, all of a sudden while giving instructions for tea, you decided like I want to make a special different kind of tea, let's say masala tea or something, and you decided to add that step. Can you speak that step at that point of time, and will it get translated, and will the tea change? Yes, it will. That's what your interpreter gives. It gives you changes at runtime. That's the benefit, but it's slower. So what Python does is Python uses a hybrid approach like Java. All right. So even if you say Python is an interpreted programming language, it is interpreted, but it also uses compiler. All right. Now what happens is, in case of this approach, what you do is you don't convert your program from high level to binary. You convert from high level to an intermediate representation. Consider something like you don't translate to German, you translate it to English. All right. And then you get an interpreter who translates from English to German. So there's a different approach. So this does what? It gives you the best of both worlds. It gives you compilation and interpretation together. And this is the model used by Python. All right. I stopped drawing on my screen. All right. So Python uses a hybrid approach. That's what I mean. And if you are ever talking to a person, or maybe if you're giving an interview, and depending on what experience level you're giving an interview, people may or may not ask you this thing. So it's a hybrid language. All right. It uses both compiler and interpreter. And as you start working with Python, later you might see that often Python will create a special folder where you're running your code. It will be called as __ pycache. And inside that folder, there will be a small file with the extension .pyc. That's the compiled thing called as bytecode. So Python also generates something called as bytecode like Java. Okay. If anyone is familiar with Java, so it's similar to that thing. All right. So, but Python uses a hybrid approach, but you can still call Python as an is an. All right, Python is an interpreted language, but actually it uses a hybrid model, both compiler and interpreter, to give you performance. That's how Python works. Is this clear now? Programming. That's how your program runs on your system. Conversion is happening anyways, but the way it happens is different for Python. All right. And Python comes into the category of high-level programming languages. It has, there are a lot of details about Python. You can Google it and read about Python. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in the practical use case. So this is about Python. That's it. All right. Now let's come to the actual programming part. Look at my screen carefully. Typically I use a PPT for this thing. I'll just start typing out now quickly. When you learn any kind of language, a spoken language, what do you learn first? You learn alphabets or numbers, the individual symbols. For example, they would first teach you A, B, C, or whatever the language is, the individual alphabets. All right. Same way, each programming language has its own alphabets. All right. And those alphabets are divided into categories. They are called as keywords. They're called as identifiers by ERS, and there's literals. And the last thing is operators. All right. You can broadly break down each programming languages, whatever they have, into these 4 categories. Okay. Now, keywords are something which already have a predefined meaning in Python. For example, I'll just show you if, for, comma, none, comma, true, comma, false. You'll understand what I mean gradually as we work along. All right. But keywords mean something which has already been defined in Python, and you can use them directly. Okay. For example, if I just go to the Python interpreter, let's say Python. All right. And I just type over there this thing. If it says syntax error, all right, there's a kind of error which is called a syntax error. But if I say A, it says name error. It doesn't say syntax error. Syntax error is like grammar error. For example, instead of putting a full stop at the end of a sentence, you put it right in the beginning. So that's a syntax error or a grammatical error. Fine. A name error is something which Python says like, I don't know what the hell is A. All right, can you please tell me what it means, or at least define it and then you can use it. So there are 2 kinds of things over here. If you notice, one is keywords. Keywords means there is a predefined way where you have to use it, how you have to use it. If you try to misuse it, you're going to get a syntax error. Identifiers are actually some things which are names. Names means like we humans have name. My name is Gaurav. So Chetan, please don't practice drawing on my screen. Cool. So names are basically identifiers. For example, this A that I was typing over here, so Python treats it as an identifier, a name, but it doesn't know what that name means. So that's why it gives a name error. All right. Then there are literals. Literals means fixed values. For example, 1, 2, 3. These are fixed. These are numbers. They are just there. All right. They can be negative numbers, -1, and etc. etc. So these things are called as integers. All right, just like how you call it in mathematics. Then you have something called as float. Things with decimals are called as floats in Python. 1.0 minus 0.333, anything which has a decimal, you have to put it with a 0. They are called as floats. And if you want to type something like the name of a person, for example, I type my name. All right, these things are called as strings. Now, strings can be anything. You can put literally anything over there. Even this is a string. This is an empty string. Even this is a string. This string has a space. All right. You can put strings in single quotes or double quotes in Python. That's an option. So you can either use this or you can put what? Anything. Single quotes also. But the opening and the closing quote has to be same. So it prints my name 2 times. All right. Last thing that we have is operators. Operators means 1. This is plus, minus, multiply, divide, integer divide. Many are there in programming languages. All right, so those things are called as operators. So if you look at this piece of code that I typed earlier, 1 plus 1, what is 1? Which category does 1 fall into out of the 4? Anything, guys? It's a literal, integer literal. What is plus? Plus is an operator. If you look at this piece of code which I've written over here, if I look at this code, print is an identifier. All right, this bracket is an operator. This quoted string, it denotes a string literal. So everything that you write in a programming language is composed of tokens, and tokens are of 4 types, which I already explained you. These are the tokens that are available in the Python programming language. All right, so this is not the exhaustive set of things available. The exhaustive set has to be checked on the documentation itself, but I've given you a rough basic idea what things are available. Is this clear now? Any questions, guys? This is an overview of programming part, not how to write code or something. I'll give you 2 minutes. Just have a look at this thing. Tell me if you have any questions. Bro, are you saying something? You're not audible to me.
No, nothing. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions from anyone else, guys? This thing is going to be somewhat fast. So probably what you guys can do is you can look at the recording. What I'm going to do is, sorry, I'm having a bad throat today. So what you guys can do is after the session, I'll push these notebooks to this Git repository. So it will be available over here as a file. Okay, and I'll name it something like this. I'll just show you how I'm going to name it. I'll call it S01. This is session 1. So for the first day, I'll just call it day 01. What year is today? 2021_08_05. So they will be numbered by the day number, and I'll also put another number at the end, which will denote the notebook. For example, if we create 2 Jupyter notebooks in a day, so it will have number 1 and 2, so that you can read them in a sequence like that. I'll push it on the repo, and you can clone it or download it and then open it with Jupyter Notebook and then go through it. Cool. So this is how things will go. Any questions right now, guys? If no, then let's start with something. Okay. See, there are different ways of learning a programming language. All right. You can read a book, you can watch tutorials, or you can make projects directly. It's up to you. I prefer a hybrid approach. I read a book first. I don't write any code. Then after that, I maybe watch a tutorial, start building a project. And as I build a project, I start reading a book or maybe watching a tutorial. Now what happens is, since I'm building a project, I'll be using things. So things will start sticking into my head. So if I have to learn a new programming language, I go like that. Whatever works best for you, take that approach. But practical is the most important thing. So build a project for any kind of small project. Even a 10-line code project is a project. So you can grow it gradually to a bigger scale, but go with a project-based approach. Okay. Now, guys, can you open your Python interpreter, everyone? All right. And Python interpreter means open a terminal, type Python over there, and I'll exit it. I'll open a fresh one. Exit Python. And write over there dir and put 2 brackets after it and hit enter. I think everyone should be able to do it. Does anyone know what dir does? Any idea?
Directory.
By the name, it looks like that, but it doesn't do that. Okay, it doesn't do that. It doesn't tell you about the directory. I'll tell you what it does. How do you? Okay, let's just answer me one more question. What is data? Okay, obviously this dictionary can elaborate that. Okay. Identifier again. Okay, I'll explain identifier again. No issues with this context. So what I was asking was, does anyone know what is data? Quick, what is data?
Meaningful information.
Okay, great, correct. Where do you store it?
Database.
In a database. What is a database? It's a file.
It's a kind of
File.
storage. Yeah.
A database is a kind of server which actually stores the data in a file. All right. Or just think like this: when you buy a laptop or a phone, what do you look at it in terms of memory? Where does your data get stored? What do you look at?
Hard drive.
Hard drive. Do you also look at RAM?
Yeah, but that is temporary memory.
But
that is a temporary memory.
Yeah, but then why do we need it? If it is temporary, why do we need it?
To access the files faster.
Yeah. So, but if you cannot store in RAM, then how will you access it? You are going to store in hard drive.
Yeah, store it and for a temporary time, like for a limited amount of time.
Yeah, correct. So typically when you, for example, when I type Jupyter Notebook over here, all right, where do you think Jupyter Notebook got installed? If it has to be saved, so that if I restart my system, it has to be available, it has to get stored on hard drive. All right. And but once I type Python or Jupyter Notebook, it loads that code that is present inside the binary file, dumps it into the RAM, and then loads it from RAM and then runs on your system. Your CPU actually runs it from RAM always. But RAM acts as an intermediate memory. Why? Because it's very much faster. All right. So now there are two kinds of memory that we have in our system. One is your volatile, which is RAM, which goes away when you shut down, and one is your your secondary memory, which is your hard drive, persistent storage. So now, when I want to store some data inside a program, or when I want to do any kind of calculation and store its result, will it go into your hard drive or will it go into your main memory, which is your RAM? What do you think? Main
It would
memory.
be in cache memory initially until we save it.
When we say cache, we can call it main memory. Would that be fine? Or RAM?
Yes.
Correct. So remember one thing, whenever you want to store data in a program, all right, or you create some kind of data storage, normal data storage in a program, it goes into your RAM or your primary memory. All right. And as soon as you shut down your interpreter, all right, it will go away. For example, I write a simple expression, look carefully, a equal to 1. Now if I type a, it doesn't give me error, it gives me 1. Did I create any b over here? No. If I say b, it gives me b name error. If I say b equal to something and I say b, it gives me the value of b. So where is it present right now? Inside the memory. Cool. Now if you see inside the dir, you see only these names. Now if I do dir again, do you see a and b? Yes.
Yes.
Do
No.
you see a c over there? Look at the
No,
corner.
no.
There is a and b, which was not there earlier. So do you see a c over here? No. If I say c error, if I say c equal to something, I can put a space between this code also. A equal to or with or without space works. So if I say c now, it works. If I do dir again, it shows me. So Python can use anything which is available to you. It cannot use what is not available. Fine. Either you create it or it should be available already. Okay. So A and B, C were not available already. I created them. Now I can use them. Cool. But what happens if I exit over here? Also one thing. So what is C? C is a name. Name of what? Name of something which we call in programming as a variable. All right. Which points to what data? This 9999. All right. Or which contains this data. Now, since C is the name of a variable, it is an identifier. So identifiers are the names which we create by ourselves. So this A, B, and C, all are the names. They are identifiers. And this 9999, these are fixed values. They are constants. If you have 333, it's 333. You cannot transform 3 into 2. It's not possible. But you can do something like this. C equal to 1. Earlier, C was 9999, but now it's 1. So it's a variable. You can change its value, just like how you have in mathematics. But this data that is being pointed or being referred by C or A or B is stored where? It's stored inside your primary memory or your memory or inside RAM. Remember that thing. Once I exit this interpreter, I have closed that software, which is Python interpreter. Now I type Python again. Python and dir now. All of the stuff is gone. So whenever you run a program, if it generates some data, if you don't dump it into a file, it's going to get lost, just like this. So typically, when you have to do some permanent storage of something, you store them in a file or maybe a database. Database will also actually internally dump it to a file. That's the whole idea. Cool. So this is how your programming systems work. Do you now have some idea what is dir? dir tells you what things are available. Okay. But there is another option. What do I do? If I write over here print 10 without the quotes, it prints 10. All right. But do you see anything by the name print over here?
No.
How am I able to use it then? Is print a keyword then?
Yeah, print is predefined function.
Yeah, is it a
Identifier.
keyword?
I think it is identifier.
It's an identifier, but where is it? I cannot see it, and it's not a keyword also. Trust me, it's not a keyword. If you want to cross check later, you can do that if you don't trust me, but it's not a keyword. Keyword are something that Python already knows, but I'm able to use print. So if you see over here, there are some special things by the name starting with underscores. If I just do dir and inside the bracket, I also put this thing, little thing over there, and yeah, function is correct. So yeah, so you see something like this. Now do you find print over here?
Yes.
Yeah. So print is also an identifier, but it's a built-in. Python has already created it for you so that you can use it You don't have to write it yourself. Got the idea? But apart from that, there are a lot of other things. Did you find any dir written over here?
No.
No. So where did it come from? Can you find it over here? Yeah, over here. So you can use only the things which are available. So whatever is present over here, you can use it. I use the exit function to exit the terminal. Is exit available over here? Yes.
No. Yeah.
So whatever you are using, if you haven't created it, it has to come from somewhere. Now either Python will provide you, or you import it or bring it from a library, external library that someone else wrote, or you can build your own libraries, or you can define directly inside code. That's the idea of Python. Remember this thing, guys, now. And to look into something, what is the function? dir. All right. So you can use dir directly without anything inside the bracket. It tells you what is present right now over here. But if you put something inside the bracket of dir, it tells you what's present inside that thing or what all options you can use over there. Cool. So these functions, these things that we have been using, this dir and print, etc., they are actually called as functions. Okay. So I'll leave this thing as it is. Oh, sorry, I had to save it. Fine. Let's see. So there's something called as functions. And we have used these functions over here right now. One is your print, which was the first one that we used, the first function that we used. Exit. When I opened the terminal, I typed exit and then I exited the terminal. Then I showed you print. Then now I showed you dir. So these are the three functions we have seen right now. All right. So these are functions. So functions are basically some kind of instructions are written in a place. And whenever you write the name of a function, it starts running that instruction. And different instructions do different job. For example, dir tells you what is present inside something, print prints something, exit closes your interpreter. So depending on what code has been written by the creator of that function, its behavior would change. You can define your own functions, which is a topic for day after tomorrow. So we'll discuss it then. Cool. Is this clear now, guys? Everyone?
Yeah, it's good.
All right. So, and I've used this function a lot in interviews also. For example, let's say I want to do some operation. All right. While giving interviews, not while taking the other person has to use it. Okay. While giving, I've used it a lot. So for example, you're giving an interview and you don't know which function, like how to use a function. You can do something like help bracket print. It tells you how to use a print function within a, sometimes it shows you an example also. You can use a terminal also if your interviewer allows it. Most likely they will allow, so you can use it if you forget something. Cool. So there is another function called as help. So if you type help and in the bracket of help you type something, it's going to tell you about what it is. For example, if you type keywords, probably it will tell you what keywords are. Yeah, it tells you what is the list of keywords in Python. Cool. Questions, guys, right now. So this is also a helpful function. I use it a lot. Help. Okay. Guys, do one thing. Open your terminal and try all this right now. Quickly. Take 2 minutes and try it out. I'll go on mute by the time. Try it out. Ask me if you have any questions. Yeah, guys, did you try it out? Okay. So let's do one more thing now. Okay. Look at my screen now. What is 1? What is 1, guys? A simple answer would work.
Literal.
Literal of what type?
Integer.
Integer. All right. So What is this 1.5 then, or 1.4?
Float.
Float. And what is this? String. In Python, there is no character data type. All right, if someone is wondering character, so it's string. Okay, so it's a string. What is this? This is also a string. All right, but sorry, yeah, tell me. The last two are both strings. All right, and yeah, that's it. Now we have something called as data type. It doesn't even know I want to tell what a data type is or how does it relate. Anything? Okay. See, when you do something like this in a programming language, 1 plus 1, what do you get? It's a simple math, guys. Did you get a 2?
Yes.
Or do you get 11?
2.
You get a 2. But can you do 1 minus 1?
0.
Fine. So I'll put a print around it so that it all gets printed when I run this code. Shortcut to run the code is Control Enter. So when I run this, it gives me the expected output. So your interpreter is working fine. Then I go and say print 1 in single quotes. What is this now?
1.
What's the type of this thing?
String.
It's a string. All right. Now it's a string, but does it look different from a normal one when I print it?
1.
It's a 1. If I print a 1 like this, it will also print normally. Both look same when you print it. All right. But there's a small difference between the two. Can you do 1 plus 1? When you do this, does it work or not? And if it works, what happens?
11.
11?
Concatenate.
Yeah, it's called as concatenation and it joins things. All right. But can you do something like this? Can you subtract 2 strings? Is it possible?
No.
It will give you an error. All right. That's the error. Unsupported operands for minus string and string. str is what Python calls as string. Cool. So it calls it as str. So this is a thing which data types tells you. So data type in Python tells you what operations can be done on data. So if I have an integer, it tells me I can add them. I can add it to a float. I can subtract it from a float. I can multiply them. I can do many operations. But can I do the same thing with strings? No. String says I can add you, but you cannot subtract me. Can you multiply? In a certain way you can, but not in all the ways. All right. So this is what data types tell you in Python. Does anyone think anything else about data types apart from what I said? What else can it tell? Yeah, guys, anything? No? Okay. If anyone would have studied a programming language like C, C++, Java, they would have also studied something like when you have an integer, it is stored in 1 byte, 2 byte, 3 bytes, 4 bytes, something like that. Yes or no? Anyone studied that thing? Float takes 4 bytes or 8 bytes, long takes 8 bytes, integer takes 4 bytes. On older system, integer used to take 2 bytes, character takes 1 byte, like that. Yeah, fine. But why are we talking about bytes? When you store data, is it going to magically just get stored in your system? No, it's going to take space. Space is organized as what? Bits, bytes, KB, MB, and GB. Cool. So there's a kind of way you specify that this data is going to take this much amount of memory. All right. And in many programming languages, it is predefined, but in Python, it's not predefined. For example, if anyone would have studied hexadecimal number system, decimal number system, or conversion, they would know that a 1 byte can only store integers from the range minus 128 to plus 127. You cannot store a number bigger or smaller than this in a 1 byte integer. All right. If you make it 2 bytes, the range becomes in a couple of thousands. I don't remember the exact value. It's just 32 something something, 3 digits after it, 2 plus 32k something. All right. I don't remember 32767 or 32768. I think that's the number. Fine. And 32768. This is the range. So as you keep on increasing the size of memory, you can store more and more data. That's what it is. Cool. But in Python, we don't know how much memory an integer can take. Python automatically increases or decreases the size. For example, I can say a equal to 1, couple of ones, and it stores it. Fine, it's a big number, pretty big number. It has stored it. So in Python, the size is not predefined. So that's why when I said data type, in Python, data type tells you what operations you can do. It rarely tells you about how much memory it is going to take. All right, be very clear about this thing in Python. Fine, remember this part. It's very important. So you don't know what is the size of an integer when you create it. It's unknown. Fine. But let's say there is a variable and I put a string inside this thing, some string. Now there is something called as dynamic typing. Anyone has the slightest idea about what this thing is with regards to Python?
It automatically assigns the type of variable.
Okay. And what would be the type of a?
String.
How do I check the type? There's a function for that called as type. So when I say type of a, it tells me string. Correct, exactly. You're correct. Fine. So, but dynamically typed also means when I say equal to 10, what is the type of a now after this line?
Integer.
It's an integer, so it changes. So that's what dynamic typing means. Many programming languages which have a notion of this thing, what you call as a data type associated with memory size, they don't have dynamic typing. Why? Because once you say that a is going to take 2 bytes of memory, you're restricted by what you can store inside it. But in Python, remember one thing, this variable names, they are just names. They don't refer to the memory. All right, they are just names. Sorry, they don't have memory. They're just referring to some address location or something which is actually stored in memory. So when I say equal to this thing, what Python does is it takes some memory, stores this inside the memory, and then tells like like you should point to this memory location for your data, and that's it. Simple. When you say equal to 10, it creates 10 inside memory and then says, hey, now point to 10. Versus in typical programming languages, when you say a equal to 10, it will say a is going to take 2 bytes of memory, and inside that 2 bytes you are going to put 10. Next time when you say a equal to 20, inside that same memory 20 is going to get stored. Versus in Python, if I say equal to 20 and then I say print id of a, id is a function available in Python to test the address of something. The ID is going to change. So initially the address was different, but later it became different because the data has changed, so address changes. Okay. So this is how Python behaves. So there are 2 additional functions. One is type. Type tells you the type of something. I'll show you this thing in interpreter also. Type of one. What should it say? Quick. Type of one is?
Integer. Integer.
It says int. Cool. Now what is the type of this thing? Sorry, this thing. It's a string because it's in quotes. If I put double quotes, it's still a string. Cool. So remember, the type is defined by the data, not by the variable name or something. Okay. And Python is a dynamically typed language. Dynamically typed means when you say type means data type. Dynamically means you can change the data type of a variable anytime depending on what data is getting stored inside it. These are some characteristics of Python programming language. Do you get the idea? Clear about this thing, guys? This is very basic of data types. It's a simplest way I can explain to you or to anyone. So this is about data types. We are going to see what all operations you can do, etc. Probably we'll see tomorrow. It's 8:13 right now. I don't know whether the time was 8 or 8:30. I think it was 8 initially, then it became 8:30, but I'm not sure whether it's 8:30 or 8. Anyone remembers? Okay. All right, guys. So what we'll do is we'll stop right now. Okay, so Shan says 8, so we'll stop right now. I have taken extra time there. So ask me any questions if you have. And also I have just got the thing, the YouTube link and this LinkedIn link for Tutor. So what I'll do is I'll just add those links also to this repository, and I'll commit it and push it. All right, and you'll be able to get it from here, from this repository itself. Fine. So just keep the link to this repository with you. And if you don't have the repository link or you want to see other repositories, you can go to my account and probably somewhere it will show the repository. Yeah, it shows just repositories over here under the repository section. But you'll need to create an account on GitHub. All right, if you don't have it already. Or if you don't know what GitHub is, get started with GitHub. Find a tutorial on GitHub. There are many websites out there giving GitHub tutorials, probably 1 hour, 2 hours or something. Just go through that and learn about it. So this is the repository py quickstart 0210805. Now guys, any questions for today for me? I'm happy to answer whatever I can answer.
Yeah, dude, I have already installed this Git and GitHub also on my PC, but it's only showing the while I type GitHub, Git and command prompt, it's giving the error, but for the GitHub, it's showing it.
Okay, so can you open a new command prompt and then try?
Yeah.
Did you was this command prompt already open before installing it?
I think yes.
That's why. So once you install something, sometimes you have to reopen the terminal so that your terminal can load the new path variables that your software adds.
But I did close all of this and did reopen it again, but it's still doing the same thing.
Okay.
I can access those files from that git GUI or command, whatever the shortcut which has been created in my chat. Yeah, I can do that, but it's not coming with this command. Or even the PowerShell.
Which Git did you install the same Git SCM, the Git bash thing?
Yeah.
With the default options, everything same, or did you change anything?
Nothing. I didn't change anything. Just
then it should work. If it got, just do one thing. Just search for Git over like this. Does it show this to you?
Yeah, it shows that to me.
It shows. Then it should work from here also. Like you open CMD, you say Git, it should work.
No, but this is not working.
Do one thing then. Do you know how to add something to your path variable?
No.
You just do Git.
Okay.
Go to this open file location.
Okay.
And see, this is a shortcut. This is not the actual Git. So you go to its properties and find its actual location. Let's say C program files this git bash.exe. So you copy the path till this C column / this thing and add it to your path variables. Just Google how to add to Windows path variables. You'll get it and just add this path there. Once you add it, it will start working in a fresh terminal. After that, open a fresh terminal. Okay. And the links have come for YouTube and all. So I'll do one thing. I'll type it on this thing, on your this Google Doc, and I'll also paste them on the repo so that if someone by chance messes up, we have a backup which is immutable. And we'll talk about Python's immutability tomorrow. So let's go and reload this thing.
And one more thing, like if I print my name or print a variable like letters in this, what do you say, this Jupyter, it prints the name everything. But in PowerShell, if I give the variable and press like print D, then it's printing the variable value or the thing. But
yeah, so you mean something like this, Python, and you say print, or let's say D equal to 10, and then you say print D like this. Versus if you do like this, it will print D now. You get the difference?
Yeah, it is printing. Yeah, printing variable D, but it is not printing the D.
See the last one.
Okay.
So when you say print D, you are saying like find the identifier D, whatever it points to, print it. It points to an integer, string, whatever. But here you're saying print the literal D. Literal D means it's not an identifier now. That's also a difference between identifier and literal. So identifiers are written without quotes or anything. literals, depending on what literal it is. If it's a string literal, you'll write it in quotes. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's the idea. Okay. So guys, anything else? Let me know. I have. Sorry. Who's that?
Gaurav.
Sorry, who was speaking? Sorry, I just muted you.
No worries. Gaurav, just one quick question on the compiler.
Yeah.
Just based on the example that what we have had, so you mean the compiler not masala T, since it's only designed to do normal T? What you mean?
Yeah, no, what I meant was to redo the masala T, you'll have to write the instructions again, convert all the instructions to binary, and then you'll be able to get the masala T. Whereas in interpretation, you can change it after you have executed the first two instructions also. It can change at runtime while you're making the T. With compiler, it's like if you have to redo it, you have to redo it from the start, from the beginning. You cannot do it from the middle.
Okay.
Got it? Yeah. All right, guys. So this thing and the notebook for today, both the things, I'll just push it right now. If you guys have any questions, ask me. Otherwise, feel free to drop. I'll just be pushing these notebooks onto and the content to this repository, and that's it. Cool. So let's meet tomorrow, guys. Good day. Enjoy.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tomorrow's link is same or what? Hello?
Yeah, tomorrow's link should be same. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. All right. Bye. All right, guys. So I'll end the meeting. See you tomorrow, guys. Bye. This thing has been pushed on the repo. You'll be able to find it. This notebook and the links.
Thank you, Gaurav.
Thank you. Bye.